These are some of the best childhood cartoons that I have watched in my childhood. Every minute of them is just pure fantasy that has shaped my love for them. But the question here, which of these are the best cartoons that I would put as a top 5 favorite? Well, we'll just have to see why these childhood cartoons are the greatest of all time. What's up everyone, this is Willie and today I'm going to be making a special video running through a trip down memory lane in my childhood of cartoons because obviously as a child you are built to invest into these types of TV shows that have really kept you entertained as you grow up. So for this video I want to list out my personal top 5 best cartoon shows that I watched in my childhood. And it was a pretty difficult list to put together, so to really narrow down the field, I'll give some honorable mentions to shows that I watched but were unable to scrape by into the top 5 list. So for some honorable mentions, I like to run through groups of shows where I consider them in certain categories. So the first honorable mentions are shows that I remember investing in a lot as a child, but my memories of them has kind of waned down. And that's what the likes of Bob the Builder, Johnny Test surprisingly, and even Wayside, where they're all really good shows, but just lacked some sort of impact that made me think of them when it comes to my top 5 picks. Next ones I consider are shows that I watched as my childhood, even though it's not really meant for my younger age. But I was still really hooked with the creativity values that these shows entailed. So yeah, Blue's Clues, Bearstein Bears, and even Roly Poly are shows that had really strong humor and fostered such positive qualities that made me feel high on them as TV shows, but weren't really that high enough to make the list because most of my memories of them have petered out. And I guess I might as well talk about these shows, which are very highly popular cartoon shows I know I've watched at least a couple episodes of, and I understand the love they get. But for me, only watching a couple episodes of them does not really make that mark of my personal top favorites, so yeah. But at least I wanted to give these shows a bit of some acumen for their popularity. And for the final group of honorable mentions are shows that were the strongest to make the list but just nearly missed out. We have Thomas and Friends. I really like the storytelling of the show, and the style with the models, which I like the model versions a lot, have really engaged me into the values this show has. We've got Chuggington, which I'm baffled to see that people tend to label it as a ripoff to Thomas, which I mean the concept is similar with personified trains, but not really to that degree. Not only honest, the quality is a bit better and also entails such educational values and character complexity that I really adored all together in one show. Octonauts, a show that I was surprisingly invested into because at first I was iffy on it for some reason, but then I started loving it and the dynamics between the characters are just so interesting to watch. Team Umizoomi is fantastic. The adventurous style of the show is everything that would engage me to watching it. Plus, I love the diverse roles each of the characters have to add to the complexity elements between them. And then we have To Be and Binu, which obviously I did just do a 20-year retrospective on the show. But like I mentioned, it really is a show that stuck to my mind a lot because of the creativity it entailed and promoting imagination values too. And then we have Bubble Guppies, which again, I only watched the first few seasons because they were probably the best for me. I never watched the later seasons, and what I've heard, they've really changed a lot. And reception is pretty mixed, but I'll just stick with the content I watched up to that point, and that I was really attached into the structure of the show, where they had a really organized format where they have different kind of fun sequences all in one episode to really promote the educational value of what they're teaching in that respective episode, like cooking or airplanes. And they do so with first learning of it, then engaging with the topic, like singing songs about it, and participating in imagination stories about the topic, which I really love that kind of format. And for that repetitive format to actually work out good shows the merit this show has. With that out of the way, now let's get into the true top 5, the ones that I would consider the most elite shows that truly shaped my childhood. And that stems from their overall storytelling, the values of their qualities, and their creativity that really aesthetically appeals to my desires with cartoons. So now let's start off at ranking at number 5. I'm gonna have Wonder Pets, the old school show that I happily loved, and the characters in Linny, Tuck, and Miming are just all such dynamic characters who brought different kinds of roles to the table. But yeah, this is an adventure type of show where they're going to go on rescue missions, and they really promote the merits of support and aiding others in need of it, which this show really perfectly incorporates those into the storytelling of the show. Plus, to add on top of that, this show harnesses such a good positive atmosphere where there isn't really a moment that they come off as unlikable at all, which is the same for the next upcoming shows. But I also do enjoy the challenges the characters face, adding more fun to the show and keeping you hooked on how they're going to overcome those challenges. Now, to be fair, I haven't watched this show for a long time, so maybe my eventual rewatch will change that. Plus, also, considering the show is turning 20 next year, I am planning to make a 20-year retrospective on it, so you should definitely stay tuned for that video. And furthermore, this show did have just a reboot recently, which I have been personally watched, and obviously it's not the same characters. It's a fresh new cast that is definitely meant for the modern generation. So overall, The Wonder Pets was a fantastic thriller, and I'll have it ranked at number 5. Now to rank number 4. The show I'm only gonna pick is one that I absolutely adore the humor of it. And the show does continue to the modern day, but I never watched the later seasons. But whatever, that show is Peppa Pig. Which again, Peppa is a really incredible character, and I enjoy her journey throughout every episode and how she's learning a lot. And also doesn't come off in a very unlikable fashion, instead comes off in a more endearing sense. In general, the sharp humor, the educational value, and the endearing journey with Peppa Pig is what makes me super enthralled into the show. Furthermore, this particular show is one where I do not ever want to miss an episode when it's gonna air. And when I do eventually miss one, I'm left very bummed out that I miss an entire episode of fun, no matter if I watched the episode before or it's one that I really did not care much for. And to iterate, the show is still ongoing to this day, and I haven't really watched any of the seasons since, but I can tell the popularity of this show is definitely warranted by my personal experience watching it as a child. So yeah, Peppa Pig is ranked number 4. And now to rank number 3 is a show that definitely wasn't targeted for the younger side of the young audience, which I did not even care, and I'm watching this show when I'm like 3 years old. And that is Total Drama, the franchise in general, because I absolutely love it. I mean, yes, the humor is definitely not preschool appropriate, and there's definitely a lot of sequences that demonstrate that, but I didn't care. I'm personally attached to this show a lot when it comes to everything about it. The incorporation of elimination, adding to the challenge element of the show, is what engages me a lot, because I do like competition, which is why I watch reality TV these days now. But also, the theme song is probably one of the best ones I've ever heard because it's so catchy and I'm just non-stop singing it. Even one of my parents just sing it too because the theme song really popped out a lot when it comes to cartoons back in the day. And also, to add on top of that, the show obviously got a reboot, which I did mention about in my other Total Drama video. And I do really like it. It really was what appealed to us fans who needed another season to, 1, get our enjoyment out again, and 2, relive the journey with the characters just like the ones in the first season. And you know what? Because of that, I might as well make a video talking about how good the reboot was. So definitely keep your eyes out for that video. But anyways, I'm ranking it at number 3, where it was initially number 2, but after a rewatch of another show, it really outmatched this one, but it's still good nonetheless. Now for number 2, which is the show that I just mentioned rewatching and further propelling my opinions on it. But having this at number 2 may come off to a bit of a shock to a lot of you, and that is The Backyardigans, the first cartoon show that I ever reviewed on this channel as in honor of its 20-year retrospective. And overall, the show's imagination and creativity culture was some of the best that I've watched on my screen. And not only is it that, the storytelling was done in a formula that makes it so thrilling is what elevates it. Plus, the discography factors into the show too, because this show also incorporates the musical elements, and my love for music is seeked a lot from the values the Backyardigans promotes it as. And the 5 main characters, or just some of, if not the best animated characters in the early 2000s. I mean, come on, Pablo, Uniqua, Austin, Tasha, and Tyrone are just incredible, and the diversity among these characters in terms of personality and roles further propels the complexity he have on the storytelling of each of the episodes. And my rewatch further gave me such good nostalgia for it that I've moved it up over Total Drama in this top 5 ranking. And yeah, I'm always saddened that this show ended after 4 seasons when a 5th season could have been done and kept this show alive, but unfortunately it didn't happen. And to make matters a bit more unfortunate is that the Backyardigans get a slight reboot, not like a show, but more for music videos, which is just a reboot, but with such atrocious animation models that just further made everything so upsetting for me. Which sometimes I do try to have an open mind with some of these shows, and I do give it a chance. But for this reboot, it definitely did not do it in the right way, which did upset a lot of the Backyardigans community, especially me as well. But besides that, the old school show, the more captivating one, is definitely one that I would highly recommend. So I rank this childhood masterpiece as number 2. And now we finally get to rank number 1. And the reason I have it for number 1 is kind of on par with my experience with Peppa Pig, where I just don't want to miss an episode of it when it's on the air. But in my opinion, what elevates this show more is that it portrays such a dynamic duo that is very compelling to watch how they find the resolution of their challenges together. And on top of that, the show always stuck to my mind ever since I first watched it as a toddler, I would say. And that's Max and Ruby, which what an incredible show this was, emphasizing on a sibling dynamic between Ruby and Max, which although Ruby can be very overbearing with her caretaking for Max, she is a really good parental figure when she teaches Max how to do things. And also, I love Max's side of things where he's able to sometimes prove Ruby wrong when she underestimates his abilities and stuff, which is why I love the intrigue with this dynamic where they can point out each other's flaws and still overcome it together. It's a very comforting show, and it's one that would air every weekday morning before I would head off to school, and it would be the last show I watched before I head off to school, which lasted quite some years before it was taken off the morning schedule, which really depressed me, going to show how much I've connected myself with this show, resonated with my childhood, and attached my love for it. And furthermore, the humor is absolutely incredible. There's just so many memorable moments that stick to my mind when it comes to this show and how funny they are. But to now expand throughout the timeline, this show did get a reboot, and the quality did kind of downgrade a bit from the old school era of Max and Ruby, because this reboot had Max and Ruby parents involved, which whatever, and had Max being able to now speak full sentences, which was further developing the growth with him and Ruby. But that alone really distincts itself from the quality of the Max and Ruby that I grew up with, which is why I didn't bother watching much of the reboot, besides like a few episodes. But with that, Max and Ruby is the cartoon show that in my opinion is the best cartoon of my childhood. So this ranks it at number 1. There you go. These 5 are in my opinion the best cartoon shows of my childhood. And looking at the list, I've noticed that my selections all had some sort of respective reboots or something, which although some may not be working out, at least it goes to show how much these shows are very well liked by the audience. And by my picks, it's already telling that because I was someone who was born in the early 2000s, these shows were really targeted towards my kind of generation, which really worked out to my desires. These are like what I call like the most phenomenal shows to ever watch in that generation. And I would highly recommend these shows to anyone who hasn't watched it for the sake of introducing them some really good shows here, and maybe they'll revere it too. So with that, I appreciate you all tuning in, and I'll see you in another video.